Huawei's had a tough couple of years, but despite the obvious smartphone constraints, the company still is producing some solid smartwatches and wearables, such as the Watch GT3, and this is our full review. Thanks for watching 9to5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then tap the bell icon to be notified about all our future uploads. So if you cast your mind back, there is little really here to truly differentiate the Watch GT3 from its predecessor, the similarly solid Watch GT2. I found it hard to really see where the major differences have been made to the chassis of the 46mm Watch GT3 model over the original GT2, which I tested over a year ago. I will say though, my tastes have changed in recent years to the point that I'm finding myself leaning more towards larger watch faces. And when you just want to quickly glance or grab information, a larger size of screen, and especially watch, really does help get you that information quickly, and larger watches do provide that glanceability that you might be looking for. In that regard, the Watch GT3 certainly offers a large display and footprint, but the biggest change between this and the GT2 is in the side buttons. Instead of two lugs, there is one imitating a crown, with a more common elongated flat button underneath, which acts as a quick toggle. The crown itself can be rotated to scroll, zoom and navigate through certain UI screens in a similar manner to that of the Watch 3 from earlier this year. That bottom button can also be assigned to quick gestures or app shortcuts if you so wish, but comes pre-assigned to the inbuilt fitness tracking app. I will say that these side buttons do have great tactility, and the larger than average size of this actual watch itself means you can more easily activate, press and use these buttons, especially if you do rack up a sweat and do have sweaty hands. Every edge of the 1.43-inch AMOLED screen bleeds into the chassis for an almost seamless look. At least to me, this feels more in tune with a traditional watch design, but it has some added benefits. When slipping your hand into your pocket, there is no lip to catch or drag. It's one of the core reasons I actually like when smartwatch manufacturers adopt this sleeker aesthetic, as it does sometimes mean that they've taken or given advantage towards usability and overall everyday wear, compared to some other watches which just sometimes you can be lumbered with extra bits that maybe don't make a lot of sense. At 466 by 466 pixels, the screen is really sharp and gets very bright during the day. I found that tuning or turning down the display brightness helped, as it can get eye-searingly bright in dim or darkened rooms. I'd imagine it will be ideal though, even in the brightest conditions, and it's just a solid screen that has been exceptionally well tuned for everyday legibility, which is important given its usage. It is hard to deny though that there is more than a hint of fitness wearable on the Watch GT3, despite that classic style choices that have been taken here. The fluoro elastomer strap does feel lightweight, but not as breathable as we would have kind of hoped. I'm certainly of the opinion that a true active wear wearable should include a perforated watch strap, and especially if you're going to be working out wearing this watch, luckily you can pick up a replacement strap, and it's something I think I may do in the near future, as it was something that I did find to struggle with when I was wearing this whilst working out. Adding to that, the Watch GT3 also comes with a 5 ATM water resistance rating. That means it's perfectly fine for wearing during a short swim in a pool or even a 50-meter deep water dive. Unlike the previous generation that ran LightOS, Huawei has actually slapped a version of HarmonyOS into the Watch GT3. And this does mean that you get an access to a few extra features and functions as a result, but only if you're using an Android device and not an iOS-powered smartphone. Performance isn't exactly the smoothest all the time, such as when interacting after an extended period of kind of cooldown. That said though, it is incredibly fluid when it's warmed up, which is impressive given just how lightweight the internals do claim to be. If you've used a LightOS-powered watch before, the added performance boost is quite noticeable. This latest Watch GT also comes with this version of HarmonyOS pre-installed, and it's practically identical to the build seen on the Watch 3 earlier in the year. There are some geo restrictions on specific features, but it is worth noting that many of the extras do feel very redundant here in the West and very China-centric. As this is the more sports-centric wearable, it is worth noting that you can't access or directly access the app gallery from the watch itself to sideload applications. You can sideload apps via the Huawei Health app, which is fine, but the selection is, in a word, small. I counted 30 apps that you can actually sideload here in Europe to the Watch GT3, and many of these are fairly basic. In many cases, this simply hits at a deeper issue affecting Huawei, and we wouldn't expect this to change anytime soon. That said, you will find several fitness tracking apps, a basic calendar, weather, and various other utility options such as a stopwatch, a torch, which does set the display to white at maximum brightness, a contacts app, and a compass pre-installed. I was actually quite disappointed that Huawei hasn't yet added a default calculator app, but almost all of the bases are mainly covered here. A prime example of the bases being more covered than with the previous generation is the ability to actually take calls on your wrist. This has been missing on previous Huawei GT series watches for a little while, so it's great to see it return. In my short experience actually trialling the option itself, it proved to be really solid, but as you would expect, the small speaker isn't quite as loud as your smartphone earpiece. My personal advice would be to just use this feature in quiet environments, as it is pretty good, all things considered. Wireless payments are also seemingly possible using the Huawei Wallet app, but you will need to link with compatible banking apps using the Huawei Health app. But this simply failed every time I tried to activate this option from my Pixel 6 Pro. I'm not sure if it's an error or if NFC payments will come in the future, but for now it just doesn't seem to work, and I would scratch that off the feature set available to European and global users. In the marketing for this watch, Huawei has touted the tracking features to be in or around the accuracy level of that of similar fitness tracking wearables from the likes of Garmin and even the Apple Watch. And I can't say for certain if that data derived from a Watch GT3 was to the same levels, but I was disappointed to see that auto workout detection was slow to activate or even register. Without initiating a workout, you're unable to see the GPS data, which is a little bit annoying to say the least. I also found that attempting to track free weight and weight-based workouts still remains way below average. However, it is worth noting that not many smartwatches can provide accurate tracking of these kinds of work routines and weight routines. And understandably, there is a major focus here on running and aerobic fitness tracking too. Beyond the fitness capabilities, I found the sleep tracking features to be particularly good here, but I wouldn't tell anyone to wear the Watch GT3 to bed. The sheer size and shape of this smartwatch make it an uncomfortable accessory for bedtime, and it did appear to accurately rate my hours of sleep with each short waking phase, but the sleep rating and sleep phase information is something that is hard to truly evaluate, it must be said. Battery longevity has always been a core tenet of the Huawei Watch series, and the GT3 is absolutely no different. After around 11 to 12 days of constant wear, I actually haven't needed to seek out the charger here. And when I'm actually used to topping up my Samsung Galaxy Watch almost every single day, I've actually felt really spoiled here. Even tracking a few things such as basic walks and some treadmill use, along with days and uncomfortable nights of wear, it really hasn't led up. It's not like a Huawei wearable has ever really let me down, but the battery life is one of the most exceptional things about the Watch GT series, and the GT3 is just as excellent as the previous versions. Charging for around an hour per week is enough to add around 6 or 7 days without really worrying too much about when you'll next need to reach for that cable. In that regard, the Watch GT3 is perfect if you actually don't want to take yet another cable with you on a trip, for instance, and it can actually be charged via standard Qi wireless charger, but in my own experience, this has been pretty finicky and it didn't work reliably enough for me to count on it. Because of that, I just tend to stick to the magnetic charging cradle that does come in the box, and that works perfectly fine. So unlike the more integrated Huawei Watch 3, the Watch GT3 is a smartwatch that simply provides you with just about everything you could and should expect. That's not an indictment of the product, but it's a pricey package when you won't be able to do many of the things most people would want to do from the wearable here in 2021. There is no doubt that Huawei makes some fantastic hardware, but the software is where things ultimately fall a little bit short. That said, like many smartwatches designated for fitness and health tracking specifically, the Watch GT3 does an admirable job if you just want a few core stats and that exceptional battery life to boot. It's tough to compare what is a limited smartwatch such as this to something a little more feature rich, but I think it's actually one of the major attractions here. Because the experience is good but limited in certain areas, the Watch GT3 feels more like a companion to your smartphone than something attempting to replace it. Even so, unfortunately, the Watch GT3 won't replace my Samsung Galaxy Watch 4, but it's one of a shrinking pool of Huawei products that can garner some sort of seal of approval, and that has to be worth something. I want to know though what you think of the Huawei Watch GT3. Is it a go, or is it something you will absolutely avoid? Let me know down in the comment sections below, but until next time, this is Damien with 9to5Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.